Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome to today's video. I want to talk about Rome, is it called Rome? Or Attila Total War anyway. It is of course going to be Creative Assembly's next game after Rome 2. And it is now available for pre-order on Steam as well. I can't remember oh no, it hasn't got a release date yet. It's just going to be coming out next year as far as we're aware. And I've seen a couple of stuff that they've put out, a couple of the media regarding the game, some of the battles and some of the features that's going to be in it. And I have to say, on the face of things, it all looks like a decent game. I'm surprised it's not an expansion to Rome 2, to be honest. I mean, seeing as it does sort of follow on from what would be the end of Rome, or Rome 2. And I'd like to see it do well. I'd like to see it come out the way that they are showing it at the minute. I mean, one of the problems I had with Rome 2 is that the pre-alpha footage that they showed when they were promoting Rome 2 wasn't actually the game that we got in the end. In actual fact, I'd probably say that that game looked and played better than Rome 2 did when I eventually got it on my computer. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not really what we're after at all by any stretch. It's very similar, I suppose, to the Alien game that came out that looked totally different in the alpha footage, and then when it was fully released was a complete and utter buggy pile of rubbish. Rome 2 probably wasn't that bad in comparison, but it certainly, they missed out quite a few features that should have been in the game, really. And also the game didn't play anywhere near as well, if you probably remember, if you've been watching my channel for a while, some of the videos I did back then about it, and it really was a mess for a while, to the point where Creative Assembly had to put out updates every week to try and fix it. I think in the end they had, was it 15 or 16 patches to the game, basically just trying to fix the problems that was already in the game. That doesn't bode well for Attila. I'm hoping that they've learnt their lessons. Now, the main crux of the video was, am I going to pre-order Attila, or Total War Attila? I don't really know. At the minute, no. Not when we're so far away from release anyway. I'm definitely not going to be doing that now. The incentive DLC doesn't really bother me at all. Basically the reason I wanted to pre-order Rome 2 was because I like the company and I like the games they put out, so I'm happy to put my money up front for it. This time, I'm not so sure. The disappointment of Attila on release date, Rome 2 on release date, worries me for the release of Attila. So that might be a sticking point. I have to say though, credit where credit's due, although not as much maybe as I'd like. But the Emperor Edition of Rome 2 is a very, very good game, very playable. If you haven't even touched Rome yet at all, or the Total War series before, I can recommend that one. I think it was on, either is on sale or was on Steam sale at the minute for, I think it was £7.50, so about $12 or $13. If you could pick it up for about that price, then it really is a steal, because the game in its current state on the Emperor Edition is really worth playing. And hopefully they've learnt their lessons from the Emperor Edition and will release Attila at that level of game, which is of course what we want to see. Loads of companies of course are early accessing their games. Let's just bring on to another point which I'll make in this video now. Hell Raid was going to be early access, but now it's not. I was a bit disappointed by it, but having read their Facebook post regarding it, it's going to have a lot more. Basically they found a developer to come in and put more money up front for them to do more work on the game, which means they don't have to go into early access in order to try and fund the rest of the development that way. So that's really good, and they've decided to pull the plug on early access, which I'm glad about, because it means that they're going to, well, their aim at least, so from what they've said, is to release the game fully working, fully playable, in its finished form. I would say of Rome 2 that Rome 2's finished form is the Emperor Edition. not what it was released to us in September last year. Having said that, I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed Rome 2 when it came out after it had 2 or 3 patches. It was a lot better then, but yeah, I don't want to see the same thing happen with Attila, and for that reason I'm not sure if I'm going to put my money down. If I wasn't doing YouTube and I didn't want to show it off, that is probably the only thing that's putting me slightly more towards pre-ordering it than not. Then maybe. Certainly I wouldn't be pre-ordering it. So it just depends how I feel near the time. If I want to put it on YouTube or if I want to do some YouTube videos on it, that might dictate whether I pre-order it or not. Because no one sends me review copies, because I've only got 1,200 subscribers. Not that I really care. I mean, you know, I'm happy to pay for my games because these are games that I would buy and play anyway. I mean, I am probably going to have to... It is going to cost me... Well, it's still going to be about £30, isn't it, when if it does need patching and updating before it is actually a good level to play. So it's not going to make any difference. I'm just not sure if I'm willing to show as much support as I was with Rome 2. I mean, I think they need to really realise that they made a lot of mistakes with Rome 2 and they tried to paper it up a lot of the way up to it. And unfortunately, it didn't pay off. They didn't make the changes that they needed to in time. So, in essence, I am looking forward to it. It looks really good from what I've seen so far. Hopefully, because it's extremely similar to Rome 2, and I think it's using a very, very similar engine, they shouldn't have too many problems with it. I don't know why I was thinking about saying something else for some apparent reason. That it should be good. So, hopefully, fingers crossed. I'll wait until I see a bit more about it, hear a bit more from the developers on Attila. But I reckon it should be a decent game. The other thing I wanted to say regarding Attila is it is in itself its own game, which is slightly bemusing to me in a sense, because surely it should be an expansion of Rome 2. Obviously, if it was an expansion, they might feel as though they couldn't charge $29.99 for it, and it might be a £20 expansion. So perhaps that has got something to do with the fact that it's being released totally on its own, or maybe, if it was me anyway, I'd be wanting to right the wrongs of the release of Rome 2 and release a brand new game and show that they can release it finished and on release date as well, rather than finishing it almost a year later. But still, nevertheless, I am excited for it and I can't wait to play it. So if it's as good as it's looking at the minute, which I presume it probably, well, I'm hoping it will be, then it should be really good fun. I won't go into details about Attila now, about the gameplay or the different spin that they've put on it this time, but one of the things I will say is very quickly is I'm looking forward to the fact that there are such extreme differences in the factions that you start off with, because of the huge threat of Attila. Basically, some factions you are going to be scrapping and fighting, and I hope, anyway, you're going to be scrapping and fighting just to stop Attila from ransacking all of your settlements. And I'm really am hoping that they come up with some really dynamic objectives for each faction. So it's not just about conquering so many lands or holding so many provinces. I'd like to see it be a bit more tailored to each one, bearing in mind the threat of Attila and the power and strength of his armies. So, I mean, I don't know, for example, you might have a faction that is right on the edge of where Attila might start from, will face the brunt of their force, and the only objective is you have to last until this year in the game, and that therefore will grant you victory in that sense. You're just there trying to hold, you only have to hold one settlement wherever it is, I suppose, or something like that, to win the game. So hopefully it will have those different caveats to it, and I'm quite looking forward to seeing what they do with it, because they've got a bit more of a unique scope to play with this time. Anyway guys, I've blabbered on for far too long, but thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments about Attila, put them down below, or if you'll be pre-ordering it, let me know, or if you won't, let me know. Basically, if you just want to say anything, just tell me. Anyway guys, I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.